Okay, so I'm going to go over the song Dance on page 12. And a couple things to keep in mind as this is a review piece, so nothing should look unfamiliar on the page, but it's a good idea if it's been a couple weeks, a couple months since you've played the piano, since Piano 101, to go over a couple of basics hands separately. Let's go over, for example, I'm going to play the whole thing through first, then I'll break it up into a couple of practice ideas to help you get started, okay? So this is what ultimately dance sounds like. 1, 2, 3. So a couple things before I even get into dynamics and articulations. One thing you could do is just practice the right hand by itself. If you noticed, there's a little bit of a shift in lines 2 and 4, but for lines 1 and 3, which are identical, just keep your hand in the same 5-finger pattern on high C. So you could do a lot of hand separate practice first to get over that. Measure 5 would be a good pivot point to practice as you're going from here and you're shifting down slightly into a slightly different position. Same thing for the end. That matches measures 5 and measures 13 are identical. So once you practice measure 5, you're doing that same movement in measure 13. As you're going through the chords in the bass clef, just again look at repetition, look for patterns. You're alternating between these two, C and E together, and then this G7 chord in measure 2. And then starting in measure 6, left hand gets to shift a little bit further south and hits D minor, D7, and a G chord. And then again, repetition is your friend. If you practice measures 1 through 4, line 1, that is identical to line number 3. So you're doing twice the work, or you're covering twice as much of the song just by practicing that line over and over again. So once you get a good control over notes, hands separate, hands together, putting it together in little chunks, make sure you're looking at dynamics and articulation. If you hopefully heard in the first time I played this, there is a lot of staccato in the right hand. But if you notice, there's no staccato in your left hand. And one thing that I've had students do before, which is an easy thing to fall into, is you don't want to do that because the left hand isn't marked staccato technically. So you actually want to hold down the left hand until you play the 8th notes in the right hand in measure 1, for example, just to pinpoint that exactly would sound like this. Okay, so you noticed your left hand should still hold on to C and E even though your right hand is bouncing off that C. If that feels a little odd, just practice over until you get comfortable. Look at measure 2, same idea. You're holding down this G7 chord in your left hand, but you are releasing that high G staccato note on beat 1. Okay? So watch out for staccato articulation. Check your dynamics. Make sure that the first 2 lines, mezzo forte, you have a change in measure 9. So make sure that you're not playing extremely quietly at the beginning. You want enough room to get quieter at measure 9. And then measure 13, you notice a forte. So make sure that you're not too loud at the beginning either, because you want to make sure you have some place to grow loud enough at the end, strong enough at the end. And then of course there is a decrescendo, so you get a little quieter at the end. I'm going to play through dance one more time so you can hear all those components put together. 1, 2, 3.